I'll give you a quick background. If this is stuff you already know, please forgive me. I'm going to kind of do a quick rush through it, and if you have any other follow-up questions, we can kind of dig a little bit deeper. Many of you know Carrie Kapoy. She is my liaison here on Maui. She's trying to dial in my staff in DC, Anthony Ching. He has worked for other members from Hawaii before, both Mazie, Senator Inouye most recently, and has a lot of history on this subject and this legislation from when Senator Inouye has really been the champion for it. As all of you are aware, all of us are painfully aware of his absence now within the delegation, and the changes that has kind of required in the landscape, both politically in Washington as well as here in Hawaii, and why we're in this position that we're in today. As you know, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, authorizing most of the federal government programs for K through 12 public education, has not been reauthorized since 2007. And so what we've been operating, and of course the Native Hawaiian Education Act has been a part of that measure and has been kind of automatically funded based on those 2007 levels. Why we're gathered here today and why I introduced the NHEA reauthorization bill as a standalone bill is because the House Education and Workforce Committee recently passed a bill called the Student Success Act to reauthorize the ESEA. This happened on June 19th, but the version that they passed completely eliminates the Native Hawaiian Education Act. Obviously very troublesome to all of us here. Right now, at this point, that specific bill, it's not clear if or when it will come to the House floor. It is not, as you know, for all of us who watch the news, immigration is a priority. Passing basic budget bills are a priority. There are a number of other issues, passing a farm bill. These are kind of the top tier issues that I imagine will come to the floor before a bill like this would. So the timing on this is uncertain. In the Senate, they passed a separate bill called the Strengthening America's Schools Act out of their Education Committee, which would also reauthorize ESEA. And the Native Hawaiian Education Act was included in the Senate version. Same thing with the timeline there. It was passed out of the committee on June 12th. Unclear if or when it will go to the Senate floor. Given the political makeup of the House and the Senate, it would be more likely to go to the Senate floor before the House would take it up. And in that case, we would kind of look at strategy from there if it did pass the Senate. But complacency is not an option. We really have to make sure that we are pursuing many different avenues in case one gets stopped up for one reason or another, that we're continuing to have options. With so much legislative movement on the reauthorization, I wanted to touch on a couple of bullet points of some of the changes that have been made to the standalone bill that I introduced. Some of the changes that were made to address the concerns that were brought up in a GAO report, questioning basically the accountability, the gathering of data, and the makeup of the councils, and that information being reported back to the U.S. Department of Education. I think one great improvement is expanding eligibility for the grants to address the varying types of education programs that are being delivered to Native Hawaiian students. The bill that I introduced makes changes to eligibility, and in the most significant way, the bill allows grants to go directly to charter schools. I know previously, you had to go through a nonprofit, but there was always some kind of sense of gray area, not being clear exactly how charter schools could access these funds. So this one makes it absolutely clear and clarifies that charter schools can apply directly for the grants. And it also makes partnerships with public education providers, including the University of Hawaii as an example, a higher priority. The makeup of the council was one of the issues that was brought up in the GAO report. So what this bill does is it appoints 15 specified government, education, and nonprofit entities that can be held accountable by the public and Native Hawaiian education community to serve on the council. The named members may appoint designees to serve on the council in their stead, but those designees would need to have at least 5 years of experience in Native Hawaiian education. So as a couple, and also members of the council cannot also be a direct grantee to avoid conflict of interest. I think that was one of the issues that was brought up in the report and that was raised to us as a concern, was saying that there's not a clear delineation between those who are on the council and those who are direct grantees of the program. As an example, there are, the governor is listed, the mayors of each county are listed, and there's an effort to make sure that each of our communities is represented. I think it would be a safe assumption to say that the governor or the mayors in any county are not going to personally attend and would appoint a designee, and that's where there is, I think this requirement of having the 5 years experience would ensure that their designee is not just someone from their cabinet who they designate to go, but someone who is actually from the community and who has experience working within the community to be involved. In addition to all the counties being represented, in order to further ensure input from the diverse communities that we have on each island, the bill also requires the council to hold community consultations at least once annually on each island. There's also increased communication requirements to make sure that the council is given the opportunity to effectively communicate its work to the Department of Education, letting the Department of Education know what the actions are, as well as letting them know what the barriers are that are unique here in Hawaii in order to achieve the overarching goal of educational achievement for Native Hawaiians. I think we are all very well aware of some of the cultural differences, some of the community differences that are not easily measured in a way that the U.S. Department of Education might require of charter schools or communities in other states. And that's where having increased communication between the council, really spelling out what the unique needs, challenges, and opportunities are of our community here are really important. And this bill also requires the Secretary of Education to make annual reports to Congress on the Native Hawaiian Education Act to make sure that this is all coming full circle. So that's the very brief overview. Anything that I have not kind of highlighted or touched on remains the same from what the Native Hawaiian Education Act still has. I will be the first to say that this is it's not a perfect proposal, and I'm interested in hearing your feedback, but we crafted this in the context of trying to say this will be a tough lift, especially in the House of Representatives, to get reinserted back into the legislation, again, given the political climate. So we wanted to be able to build, make some changes that were based on the GAO report, to take away the ammunition that opponents have brought up in the past and would try to bring up again in saying why this program should not be included in the reauthorization. Basically, we're looking at, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's $30 million in funding that has been reauthorized. Am I right or wrong? 34. That has been reauthorized thanks to Senator Inouye, and gone directly to programs that serve Native Hawaiian children across the state. So when you look at the grand scheme of the federal budget, $34 million is not a whole lot of money, but when we're looking at the climate that we're looking at today, where the military is canceling a $100,000 fireworks show because of budget cuts, it gives some perspective about how every dollar is being looked at. I know.
$100,000 for fireworks, that's like burning money, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure I knew that.
Yeah. And this is what can be frustrating, is because there are other things that money is being spent on, other cuts that are being made that they don't often make a lot of sense. But where we just have to say, okay, this is kind of the lay of the land we're working with, and recognize what we need to do to be able to make sure that this funding is reauthorized.